Welcome to another episode of Healthcare Connections podcast, powered by Healthcare Compliance Pros. I am your host, Jeremy Winn. Our purpose for this podcast is to introduce you to key topics and experts in the healthcare industry to ensure you have what you need to successfully manage your practice. Please subscribe and follow us on our social media channels to make sure you don't miss any new episodes. If you have recommendations for guests or topics for this podcast, email me at jwin@hcp.md. With that, enjoy this episode of the Healthcare Connections podcast. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Healthcare Connections podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Winn, the Director of Sales here at Healthcare Compliance Pros. And this is going to be a fun episode today. This is somebody I just met and I don't have a lot of history with, but I was really impressed recently with this company at a conference that I was at. So I wanted to bring the owner on. So we have Kim Whelan with us today. Hey, Kim.
Oh, how are you?
I'm so good. Kim is the CEO, and I love this, the recruiting matchmaker
Yes, sir.
at Kreate Talent Acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kim, I would love to give you a chance to talk with the listeners and give a more full introduction of yourself, your company, and your history, and then we'll jump into some topics today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm sorry I missed you as well at the conference, but my name is Kim Whelan. I am the CEO of Kreate Talent Acquisitions based out of Sarasota, Florida. We are a 100% contingent recruitment organization, which basically means if we don't make a hire with you, you don't pay a fee. It's a beautiful thing. And Kreate Talent Acquisitions actually officially launched in January of this year. And the reason being is I have worked in the especially healthcare recruitment sphere now for the last 8 years. And I definitely, throughout that time, learned the absolute best and worst ways of running a recruitment company and the absolute best ways and worst ways of providing a really strong quality service, not only to candidates, but also to our partners. So Kreate Talent Acquisitions has just completely rocket shipped in the last few months. I couldn't be more grateful for the support and the trust that candidates and partners have put in us already. We almost have a wait list. It's insane, but we definitely prioritize that of quality over quantity and relationships over transactions. So that's just like a little bit of a background here about us.
Love that. Thank you so much, Kim. Appreciate that. And yeah, as Kim mentioned, we were at a conference recently together, and we didn't actually connect in person at the conference, but I was walking by, and I'm always looking out for people or services that I think will be valuable for the clients of HCP to bring people on the podcast so that I can continue to drive value to our clients and introduce them to others. And when I saw your booth, and I just thought, man, I know that staffing and hiring in healthcare right now is a challenge. There were people at the show expressing that to me, and I thought, okay, I gotta find out who's running this company and have them on the show. So we connected after the conference, and I appreciate Kim being here. I think it's a really important topic. So with that, let's jump into, Kim. You're the expert in this. Let's just talk about the challenges that you're seeing in healthcare when it comes to hiring and staffing out there. I'd just love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's across the board. I think it's especially prevalent in that of healthcare organizations, trying to find the right fit, matching experience, matching character, their personability, their cultural fit. Across the board, it's just been so difficult for a lot of partners that we've worked with, and just in the recruitment sphere, we hear about it all the time. And I think a lot of those problems stem down to a lot of tire kickers, people that maybe aren't really looking for positions, but then they're looking at the same time, and you're like, what? There's a lot of people that also talk about the different job boards that they're using that aren't really showcasing any strong candidates. I actually had a client tell me the other day, Kim, I'm getting meat packers applying to my hygienist role. And I'm like, well, that's a problem. Like, are you paying a lot for that? And they're like telling me all the numbers. I said, oh my God. So, it's just trying to bridge that gap between the candidates that are really truly qualified and maybe not even qualified, but really can grow into these roles, as well as matching them with the experiences and the opportunities, and just overall bridging that gap, like I said, and being able to present the highest quality candidates to the best possible organizations and just making the process really stress free and seamless. So it's across the board, though. We just try our best, and sometimes we get hit with it too. Right.
Hmm.
Sometimes we run into those same types of situations, but we'll always fill in our partners with what the market looks like and aligning with their market specifically. So that way they can be more competitive and, of course, more attractive too.
Love that. Thank you. You
Yeah.
you touched on something in your introduction that I want to follow up on.
Hmm.
You mentioned focusing on quality
Yeah.
over quantity,
Yeah.
and I think that's an important thing to maybe dive deeper on if you don't mind spending a little
Absolutely.
bit of time on that.
Yeah, it's literally in our motto, right? Like quality over quantity. And that's also when it comes to patient care. So that's very in line with that. We as an organization are not a resume mill. There are some out there, right? And there are a lot of people that work with temp and travel organizations. But when
Yeah.
it comes to us, we are very, very picky and it works for us. That's why our retention rate with the candidates that we place is so high because we avidly screen candidates out and not in. So our
Okay.
process of screening really is just building the relationships with the candidate. And I hear it all the time. I see it online sometimes. Like building rapport is all just fluff. It's a waste of time. And it's not. Like it really isn't. The more that we build a relationship with our candidates, the better the chances are that they'll fill us in the whole process, make sure we're answering all questions and concerns throughout that process, providing that quality service. So that goes same with the partners as well. You know, if we're building rapport with them too, what does that mean? We're going to have longer term
Yep.
relationships with them. And the ultimate part of it is we don't want to waste anybody's time. Ours, partners, candidates, we're all about just focusing on the individual and not just a whole bunch of, hey, here's a resume, right? Here's 100 resumes. We haven't
Right.
talked to them. We haven't really done anything with them, but they're a resume that's out there. Do you want to talk to them? Like, what? No. Like, we
Yeah.
need to talk to them first. We gotta make sure that they're up to our standards
Yep.
first, right? And with that, also quality over quantity. This is also something Create Talent Acquisitions is very specific on, is smart client ratios. We are not an organization that's going to have 700 open positions with 10 recruiters.
Yeah.
What is that, 70 per person?
Yeah.
Where's your position going to be at? The top, the middle, the bottom? That's why a lot of partners that I work with, they're like, Kim, we don't even hear from our recruiters after we start working with them. Well, that's
Yep.
why,
They've
right?
got a huge workload, right?
Like, yeah. And and if you are following that process, the screening process, which you should, it's going to take forever. They may
Yeah.
never get to your position. So we're also focusing on quality over quantity in that regard as well.
Love that. I
Yeah.
know in my experience, right, in hiring in the past, you kind of touched on a pain point is I just had 30 people apply
Yeah.
and I'm so busy already, which is why I'm trying to hire people. Where am
Yeah.
I going to find the time to really dive in deep to all 30 of these applicants to determine who am I going to talk to next? So it's so valuable. I can see already, with your method on, I love
Mhm.
that idea of we're screening people out
Yeah.
versus, necessarily just screening them in. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's really
100%.
valuable.
Our literal motto is honesty plus trust plus rapport equals results. And
I
that's what
love
I
that.
speak about in every presentation. And I obviously won't go into all of the specifics of that now, but it
Yeah,
really is what we follow. And that's why our service is different.
love that. You you mentioned something to me that I hadn't heard before. So
Hmm.
there's an insight that you
No.
called 1 verse 20,
Yes,
and
sir.
it's all about working with multiple recruiters. Should I do that? Should I not do that? So if you could talk about that 1 verse 20 for
Yeah.
us.
Absolutely. And this isn't just an idea I came up with one day. This is just based on my experiences in speaking with organizations of all levels, of all nature, especially in that of healthcare over the last 8 years. And it's 1 versus 20. And it's basically my inside secret, it's my inside truth. And I also talk about this all the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
When individuals or organizations are looking for new candidates for positions, sometimes what it sounds like is working with the more recruitment companies that you can, the more eyes that are going to get on more candidates and more
Right.
potential. And it can be, especially if they're all 100% risk free like we are, you only pay when you hire. It is attractive, right? Like you want as many poles in the pond as possible. But
Right.
what we have also heard as well is that this really dilutes the message of organizations' opportunities with potential candidates, right? And candidate confusion versus that of candidate clarity. It muddies the waters because you only get one opportunity to make a great first impression. And if you have 700 different recruiters calling individuals and each of their pitches are different,
Slightly
right?
different. Yeah.
Exactly. Like somebody that may have been an amazing fit for this opportunity is now been completely misled about an opportunity, and they're like, "Oh, that's not the same position as I was talking to them about. Is this the same company? Like what?" Like so it's a common misconception that as many people working on your positions is better, but in reality from our understanding is that recruiters are a representation of your organization. So we want you, whether it's us, whether anybody, to be picky and to make sure that you have full trust in not only their organization, their missions and values, but also trust in them to pitch your position to the absolute max so you can obtain the best quality candidates possible. Like, we're not an exclusive organization either,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you want to continue working or recruiting internally with your team by yourself, with somebody else, that's fine. But we're going to ask you, like, hey, how many other people you got working on this? If you tell us like 5, 10, 40, whatever the case may be, right? We may have to have a little bit of conversation about that to see if it's the right fit.
Absolutely. Do you, in ways you work with people, do people sometimes come to you say, I have just this one position and that's
Mhm.
what I need?
Yeah,
And then are there others that come to you and say, I have ongoing needs, right? I'm looking to always fill these
yeah,
types of positions. I imagine you do a little bit of both with people.
absolutely. We're not picky. We love smaller mom and pops. We love the big giant organizations too, like within reason, of course. So
Yeah.
like it's we don't box ourselves into something specific, right? If you're an organization that needs help and you want a really strong recruiter, we'll work with you. No matter if it's one need, one time, ongoing needs, or if it's like, Kim, holy crap, I'm backed up. I've got 500 positions. Please God help me. We got to get this figured out right away. Um, that's fine too. We'll just have to make sure it works. It works for the both of us, surely.
Absolutely. And then any certain specialties that you particularly work with or across the board, I think that'd be great information as well to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the board, we love that of rehabilitation. So, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. We love home health and hospice. We love acute care organizations, nonprofit FQHC organizations. We also
Yeah.
work a lot in the dental field. Behavioral health. Did I mention that already? I don't know. I feel like I'm just going backwards in my brain, but I think behavioral health I said, but if I didn't, behavioral health for sure. Substance abuse, addiction recovery, really healthcare is our niche all across the board. So anything healthcare usually have covered, from high level crazy neurosurgeons all the way down to maybe you just need a front desk coordinator.
Yep.
We're in for the ride. Hmm.
Okay. I love that. And again, I think this is so important, especially, again, I hear it all the time, not
Mm,
just at shows that I'm at, but I do hear it from clients and I
yeah.
hear it from, even consultants that I work with in the industry that are always telling me, God, my clients just, they can't hire the right people or enough people. And it's creating lots of challenges. So I appreciate your willingness to come on and talk about this. Again, a really timely topic, an important one. For people that are interested in working with you, Kim,
Hmm.
what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can visit us at createtalent.com. Create is spelled with a K. I'm
Okay.
not narcissistic. I just like the way that it looked, even though my name is Kim, I promise. But um, createtalent.com has our contact information on there. So if anybody needs any help with anything or just some advice or a resource, please feel free to reach out. Absolutely.
Okay. I love that. Kim, the recruiting matchmaker.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much for spending some time on this show today.
Thank you so
I appreciate it. I'm so glad we connected. It was well worth the time. And again, I think a lot of value will be
Absolutely.
had from this episode.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Healthcare Connections podcast. For more information on the topic we covered today, you can reach out to me or to our guest. For any additional information on healthcare compliance pros, feel free to email me at jwin@hcp.md. Don't forget to tune in next week. Thank you.